You're listening to Packers Talk Network. PackersTalk.com.
Welcome to the Packers Weekly Podcast, part of PackersTalk.com network. I'm your host, Miles Teddick, joined by your co-host, Tim Hamilton. We are diehard Packers fans that love talking about the Pack. We are not getting distracted by all the national sports media nonsense. We are talking about the top topics around the Pack every week, breaking down games during the season and sorting through all the drama, the rumors of the offseason, and all that stuff is not with us anymore because we're in the season now. So if y'all want to support the podcast, please spike that like button for us. Give us a follow. Most importantly, jump on over to the Packers Talk Network YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button and tell a friend about it. You know, tell that little subscribe button. I'm telling y'all, it goes a long way, helps us out a lot, and it's a very, very low effort on your part. You can do it right now. So tonight, we got some fun stuff to talk about because we have a real football game to talk about, and there's lots of feels about this one. Everybody's hyped up. I think we got some pent up offseason energy coming out from this Jets preseason game, and I don't know that I blame anybody. I think we got some things to cover here, Tim. But first, of course, the show is always once again sponsored by Wisconsin's own Ticket King. For over 30 years, Ticket King has been providing Packers tickets to Packers fans, as well as those Bucks tickets, Brewers tickets, Summerfest for next summer now tickets. You can find them on the web at theticketking.com or visit their locations in Green Bay and Milwaukee. And remember, support your local Wisconsin businesses. And of course, if you're not in Wisconsin, support your local businesses. Tim, good evening, sir. How are we doing?
Good evening. I'm doing okay. I'm not freaking out. Apparently a lot of other people are about a preseason game. I'm doing okay. You know, how are you?
I am. I'll tell you, look, there's going to be some things that I'm not happy about. Sure. I promise you that. But we have Packers football on our TV. Like that to me, I have to keep that in perspective. And at the end of the day, all of the bad stuff doesn't count. It does matter, but it doesn't count. You know, we don't have to hold on to a record. You know, there's no 0-1. I'll tell you this, Tim, is there any like specific mistake or like a dropped pass or maybe an interception that was thrown or committed in the preseason that was the difference in making the playoffs?
No.
I haven't seen it. If that exists, y'all let me know. But I don't think it does. I don't think that's ever happened before. So I'm certainly not going to let a few drops ruin my Packers season. I'm so grateful and happy to have them back on the TV. But yeah, I think we got some serious issues to talk about here. You know, I don't know, Tim. We got the pleasantries aside. It's great to see the Packers back on TV. But how do you feel about that one?
It was a tough watch. I mean, they were bad in all three phases. It was brutal. Their performance was it was unacceptable. And I know LaFleur came out after the game and said it was humbling. And yeah, it was pretty bad, even by preseason standards. For the games they're all pretty bad one way or another.
They're all pretty bad.
Yeah, that was tough. That was really bad. Having said that, I feel better a couple of days after the game. Look, it doesn't excuse the mistakes they made and how poorly they looked in all three phases at different times. And some of the recurring issues, things we saw last year that are now still showing up, doesn't excuse any of that stuff. But I think there's players who had good performances that people are not recognizing enough. And I think there's enough players who, you know, the first teams didn't play very long, and those are the guys that really matter. And then some of the guys that came after them matter as well, like the roster relevant players, the guys we're going to be seeing on the roster throughout the year playing games. It wasn't good enough, but I don't think it's to the levels that people are freaking out about. They certainly need to play a lot better. I know it's only preseason. I don't base anything as far as my expectations or thoughts on what the 2025 Packers are going to be based on that game at all. But you still have to have a better showing. You're also going up against a team with a first-year head coach who is making it pretty important to their team to set their culture and take things seriously. I mean, he kicked a field goal, it was 20 some yards. Like, you don't see that anymore in the preseason. You go for it, but the score was important. The vibes from the Jets was important, and that's fine. Like, we're at a different phase. They're trying to establish their culture and get their team started. The Packers are at a different point, but you still have to show up and have a better performance. Like, this is still important for some guys, right? Like, it might not be important for all the starters, but that's not what you want to put out there. Like, there needs to be a better effort. There needs to be better execution. That's the frustrating part, but I'm not ready to like push the panic button. I'm not firing any coaches or any general manager. I'm not cutting everybody to send a message. I don't think the season is doomed, but I certainly think this gives them hopefully a wake-up call, and I think it gives the coaches an opportunity to push a lot harder this week. It's an important week considering they have a practice with the Colts and then a game against the Colts. They need a better performance. I don't care if they win the preseason game. I don't care what the score is, but there needs to be a better showing. It can't be that ugly, that mistake prone, that penalty filled. That's unacceptable. That's the stuff that you can't have, because some of that stuff can bleed over and continue on and become part of your identity in the regular season. That's what you got to prevent against. But it still comes back to it's a preseason game, and it's the first preseason game. Like, there's a long way to go. And I'm old enough to remember last year when they got beat by Denver. Was it 27-2 in the preseason? Right. That was last year. Like,
yeah, that was pretty.
I
think they did show that one on the broadcast too, or something. I saw that recently.
I didn't remember that at all until people brought it up. Like, hey, remember this last year? And I'm like, you know what? That's right. And it had nothing to do with their season. No. It really didn't ultimately.
No.
So this kind of stuff happens. It happens to good teams. You need some guys to perform a lot better, and you just need a better urgency. That's the word that Goody used, right? At the end of the season. Like, I don't care if they come out and beat the Colts, what the score is. Like, you don't need to play to win. You don't need to play your starters the 4 quarters just to win and to, make it look better. Like, but you just,
there are certain moments that you need to win. I think it's maybe fair to say it that way, right? Like, in the preseason, you don't need to win the game because there's a lot of reasons why you won't that don't matter. You don't need to win any kind of statistical battle. You don't need to have your starters out there. But when Romeo Doubs gets a one-on-one route with Sauce Gardner, nothing else matters. The beauty of that is, for the most part in the preseason, you're not getting any scheming. You're not getting any kind of concept setups, any things like that. You're getting very, very vanilla football, and both teams know that, right? Probably not a lot of like blitz looks and stuff like that coming in from the defense, all that kind of stuff. And what you had in Sauce Gardner against Romeo Doubs was raw one-on-one football that Romeo Doubs lost. Like, there's no caveat to that, no asterisk, no but. Romeo Doubs got worked by probably one of the best corners in the league. And dude, if you're trying to be that guy, which this is that year that you should be trying to be that guy, you can't get worked in those. You got to win those reps. Like, the Packers could have won that game 50-0, and I'd be going back to those reps going, guys, that's a problem. Like, the Romeo Doubs against Sauce Gardner loss was a problem. And I guarantee I don't want to put like bad vibes on this guy's season and say, I guarantee he's over there cooking on this right now and it's bothering him and he's lit. But we've seen he's got, he's got some tough times handling things. We don't know what happened last year when he left the team and blew up for whatever reason, but there was something going on there. This is a guy who maybe lives in his own head a little bit. That wasn't good. Like, for him to lose those reps was bad.
That's a good example too, because he's not a guy that needs the preseason to make the team or to like, hey, I'm going to get more reps. Like he's a starter and he should be counted on. But like, you're a veteran, you're a starter. That's your opportunity to win it. Like, there's no like, go out there and be professional and take care of business. Like, I don't care if you score 3 touchdowns in a preseason or go off. Like, he doesn't need that. But when he's put in that situation and the ball's there, catch it. Like
I mean,
the basics of your job. And Romeo Dobbs is a good example, and McCall Hardman. Like that's not his first time returning a punt. That's not some rookie they're just sticking out there. And he made
that's a problem.
two mistakes. And this is the guy you brought in, who's the former Pro Bowl or All Pro or whatever the hell he was as a return man, and he made 2 mistakes. And
like bad rookie mistakes.
He's
Mistakes
a
like a guy who's scouting, your GM, your scouts are sitting there seeing that rep going,
what the hell is that?
I can get that from a rookie. Why'd I bring this guy here?
We've seen that from plenty of rookies in Green Bay and guys that aren't experienced. Right. And like, I don't want to like, okay, he maybe had some nerves because he's got to make a play to make the team and all that. Like, yeah, he's got to show that he can make the team, but there shouldn't be any mistakes like that. Like you've been in Super Bowls. You caught the game-winning touchdown in overtime of a Super Bowl. Like there shouldn't be a nerves or like, I got to make a big play. Just make the plays you're supposed to make, and Dobbs is a good example. Hardman's my example of like a veteran who just like, I don't get it. Like you make 1 mistake like that, that's bad. 2 mistakes is like, it's terrible. Like,
yeah,
that's
those are the things that bother me the most. Those are the things where you're like, all right, okay, it's the preseason, calm down, or, they're not scheming. They're not doing this. The starters aren't in. No. If you want to be, and the receiver one conversation is a big one, right? Everybody wants to talk about the Packers receiver one. Who is it? And don't think that those guys don't hear that conversation. They can certainly play the team line, be like, look, everybody's going to contribute. Everybody's going to get their game when it makes sense, and the ball is going to get dished around as the offense dictates. But every last one of those guys should be a competitive dog that wants the opportunity to say, no, guys, I'm the alpha in this group. We're all good, but I'm number one. I mean, that's kind of how Devontae Adams eventually emerged. Is like, look, yeah, we're all good, but guys, I'm number one. I'm gonna be the alpha here. That was Dobbs' moment to have that, right? Like you're in front of these young guys in camp. You're in front of a lot of people in camp right now. This is your first opportunity to get outside of your own competition. And you got arguably the best corner in the league right now. And it is just mano a mano. Man, I can't overstate how much it's a problem that he lost those reps. That is a problem. Hopefully it puts a chip on his shoulder to say, no, that's not going to happen again. But he should feast on that moment. Like that's a moment where a guy like a Jair Alexander in his prime, it didn't matter if that was a camp one-on-one, didn't matter if it was a preseason game, didn't matter if it was a Super Bowl. He was going to take that rep like a dog. And I just felt like Dobbs, I don't know. I don't want to say he didn't take it seriously, but man, he didn't win that moment. And that's not good.
He played like it didn't matter to him. Right? Like
it looked like it could have been that. Yes.
And maybe that was it. But I mean, the guy's in a contract year. Everything should matter to him. Everything should be a chip on his shoulder and motivation. Like, go get paid. Right? Like, and you got a big opportunity. Watson's hurt. Now Jaden Reed's hurt. You got a big opportunity for a lot of targets and potential a lot of success, which could lead to a lot of money. And I'm not saying, again, it's 1 preseason game. He had a drop. 2 drops, really, in my mind, because the second one he could have called it. Maybe it's pass interference. Maybe Sauce Gardner.
The second one was definitely more good defense from Sauce, I thought.
You could excuse it, but he had a shot.
Right. Yes. He still had a chance to win that rep and should win that rep. Yes.
Right. So, like, he should be a dude that's motivated throughout the season, whether it's the first preseason game, the first regular season game, whatever. And, yeah, he's a good one to be like, what the hell happened there? So, again, his roster spot's not in jeopardy. His starting spot's not in jeopardy. He's going to be a contributor for this team, potentially a big contributor. We'll see how it goes. But, like, yeah, you got to show up. You got to be professional and put out a better effort than that.
Yeah, totally. So let's, we don't have to be total doom and gloom here.
Sure.
What were some of your positives? I mean, I definitely have Romeo Dobbs on my negatives list there.
Yeah.
Let's switch to some positives. Who you got?
There weren't many, let's be real, but I think looking back at it now, a couple of days off, like you kind of, at least I think
I will say
we've
yes. Some
we've
were not as
calmed
bad
down.
as you thought.
Right. There's some people out there in the Packers fan, online world that still haven't calmed down about it. But I
Yeah.
think most of us has calmed down, and you can see there were some individual efforts that were pretty good that you look at and say, okay, there's positives to build on. So for me, offensively, I thought Jordan Morgan was solid. Like he didn't look like a franchise left tackle to me, but he looked like he can play left tackle in the NFL. And I thought he did a really nice job for them. He struggled on family night at times. I didn't really like what I saw from him in that practice. I think he bounced back and played well against the Jets, and positive sign, right? And I thought Anthony Belton did some good things. Yeah, he's got a long way to go, but you see how big he is, and he was really good in a running game. He brings some nastiness. He had a big pancake block on the touchdown run. So I think those two young offensive linemen showed something. Those were the big positives for me offensively. Other side of the ball, defensively, I was real happy with the way the defensive line played. Like Wooden had a big game. We need to stop calling him 273 pounds because he's 300 pounds, right? He said it too. He's put on weight.
Somebody's got to fix that listing, man.
Right. Like, let's fix that because he ain't. And that's not a bad thing. And he looked bigger.
25 pounds is a big difference at that weight.
Yeah. I mean, he was getting some snaps at nose tackle, which is interesting because if he can hold up as Kenny Clark's backup at nose tackle, plus still play a little three technique, that's going to get him some. Yeah. And it's going to maybe change who they're keeping on the roster. But I thought he looked really good. It was a nice bounce back from last season where I thought he just didn't take a step from his rookie year. So I thought Wooden was good. I think Enigbare, Sorrell had their plays. Even Brenton Cox made a play or two. That's positive to me because my biggest concern is the pass rush. And it's, that's what it's been since last season throughout the offseason. So it was nice to see the defensive line step up, most of them. And then I thought, a guy like Tyron Hopper, who it'll go under the radar. I thought he played a really nice game and showed that he's taken a step from where he was last year. And certainly had a better performance than Isaiah Simmons, who was getting the reps ahead of him. We're talking positives now. We can get the Simmons and the negatives, but I thought Hopper did a really nice job showing that there's growth there. With his
Simmons
game.
he wasn't all bad. He had bad moments that were like really hard to ignore.
Yeah, and that's kind of like that's the other thing too. Like, I know their defense didn't play good, and their first team defense went down, but it wasn't so much like they were getting blown off the field. Like they had a couple busts. Simmons blew a coverage underneath. They had a bust on a run fit that Braylon Allen had a big run for. Justin Fields got out. They were playing man coverage. There was nobody looking at Fields other than Nixon. He beat Nixon in the open field and ran for a touchdown. Like some of it's game plan, some of it's they were just playing soft and they were dropping their linebackers and guys were open right in the field of vision for Justin Fields and he just threw over the middle and completed it.
Right.
I don't think it was all bad defensively. And then I think for a time their backups played well. So like I think their defense, and they were also put in a bad spot with the muff punt, but I don't think it was all bad defensively. Like not good enough, but you kind of got to look at the situation and like they had a couple things that were, they blew the play and you can't have that, but it wasn't all bad all around on defense. I think there were some contributors and for me, it started with the defensive line. There were some positives there that I hopefully they can continue to build on and be a little deeper and a little better up front than I was expecting.
Yeah, totally. And I got getting something over here. No, the D line like if we're talking by like just groups, the D line has to be the group that I think I was most pleased with. And we've got a few contributions to the chat. Like you guys, man, y'all are flying. I can't keep up with what's going on over there, so I appreciate y'all. But one of the recent ones, Steve Ashton Cirillo. Very nice name there, Steve. Appreciate you being with us. Cox made some great jumps. I wish his hands were glue. Yeah, he did. He looked impressive. He's big. He definitely looks like he belongs. And I know he's been with them now for a few years, and I'm glad to see that he's coming along. Sometimes these projects like that don't come along very well, and he had a lot of potential coming out, and I believe, that there was some off the field stuff that kept him from being drafted as high as maybe he could be. Being drafted, I think he was UDFA, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so very happy to see him coming along, and yeah, I'd like to see that potential, really come out, man. Because I mean, we're talking about the pass rush all off season as being this thing that if it can show up, maybe that's the X factor for this whole team. And I would say they're off to a good start. You got a small sample size, but you can't be mad about it. What you saw from the pass rush and the defensive line, right?
No, and I think there was opportunities there to maybe finish a couple of those rushes. I think they also, because they probably weren't in game plan mode, they let Fields get out, especially on the touchdown. But maybe they rush a little bit cleaner, a little more straightforward, not let him get out of the pocket. But I think there's some opportunities to finish. But yeah, the defensive line I thought it was a solid showing for them, And you mentioned Cox. Cox did a good job, and I think people forget a little bit, like, he was a healthy scratch the first part of last year, and then they traded Preston Smith, and everybody's like, well, who are you playing now? And they put Cox on the field, and he did a pretty good job for them, considering, he was down the depth chart. So if he can take a step and show more consistency, he'll be a real nice rotational piece for them at pass rusher.
Yeah, no doubt. And got to give a shout out to our guy, Nazir Stackhouse. He's showing up. He looks like he belongs. A lot of people want to say the TJ Slayton replacement, but man, he set that man's ceiling a little higher. No, nothing against TJ Slayton. He's a solid guy, but it's exciting to see Nazir Stackhouse get in there and contribute the way that he did. Really make an impact, busting up plays. But there's a lot to go around there. There's a lot to be excited about. Baron Sorrell looked pretty good. Yeah. He looks like he's going to be a contribution to this defense. I'm excited from that perspective. I don't think everything is all bad. And again, it doesn't count, right? It's preseason. None of the mistakes are going to hurt them in the regular season. Doesn't matter. So it doesn't count. But there's definitely some good things to take from that on the defensive side of the ball for sure. I thought the linebackers looked pretty good. Obviously we're talking about Isaiah Simmons and some of his mistakes. I don't know that those are things that can't be corrected too. I mean, again, this is really, we don't know how different this defense is from the other defense he's played in. So this is really his first game film in this defense of himself to see, like, what are his issues? What are, what was I not prepared for? If you keep seeing this, and I think he'll get significant snaps still in the preseason, you see this in game 2 and game 3, I don't think he makes the team. But if you see improvement in game 2 and further improvement in game 3, not only do I think he makes the team, I think he'll be good enough to make the team, and we'll be excited about him as a contributor. But you've got to sometimes get that film out there before you can really figure out some of your kinks.
Yeah, I don't think he played well on defense, but they seem to be relying on him a lot on special teams. He was playing as a gunner on punt. You don't often see linebackers like that being a gunner. So I think he at least has that going for him. But you're right. Like, if he continues to play like this weeks 2 and 3 of the preseason, maybe he doesn't get cut, but they probably don't put him on the field on defense. He's probably strictly a special teams guy, right? And in that category of possibly being cut, because then if he's not going to be on the field on defense, then it comes down to, do you like him more for special teams, or do you like Christian Welch, who's a really good special teams player, right? So you might not be able to keep them both. And if Hopper keeps showing that he's on the upward trajectory that he seems to be, then maybe Hopper bypasses him on the depth chart. So yeah, I think Simmons will be an interesting one to watch these next 2 weeks, because I think he made some mistakes. The one pass play that I saw it on the all 22 today, he was completely lost his guy underneath. It became a big play, and part of the reason why that drive was extended for a touchdown. But yeah, he struggled. If he can pull it together, then I think there's still potentially a role for him on the defense. But if he can't, then he's got to really do it on special teams to make the team.
We got our Showers here. Good friend of the show. Glad you're here, our Showers. Simmons has been correcting, quote unquote, for years. Yeah, I hear you, but we're still, he's still like a week into, 3 weeks into a new defense, which again could be totally different from the other two that he's been in. And considering both of those franchises, I have no problem believing that there's some issues going on over there. The Arizona Cardinals and the New York Giants have both had some interesting I don't know, performance as a franchise over the last few years. We'll say it like that. The Giants certainly made some questionable personnel decisions outside of letting Simmons go. So I don't know that I would bank a whole lot on, they didn't want him. It's like, yeah, well, they didn't want Xavier McKinney or Saquon Barkley either. So, but I think again, like, it's not that you need to give this guy half a season to figure out what you got. I think if you see a mistake like that where he looks totally lost again in game 2, all right, now you probably got problems. And I don't know. I think that then it starts to become harder to imagine him making the roster because there is competition and certainly depth at special teams and on defense and linebacker. But like, that may be one of those things. And I think LaFleur said something about it where it's not always obvious who actually made the mistake. I think there was one of the Monk holds or one of his mistakes that wasn't his fault. I can't remember what it was, but there's just certain examples sometimes of a guy like, he might not have made the mistake. Maybe somebody else did. It made him look silly. You just got to leave room for stuff like that. But again, it doesn't take very long to figure out the pattern and whether or not that's a player thing or just something that needs to be tweaked and fixed. So that's what'll be good about the preseason, and in general, that's why I like the preseason. So we're gonna see our showers. We're gonna see, but I think I don't know. With all of his athleticism and benefit on special teams, he's still got plenty going for him if you can get it right between the ears. But yeah, I mean, we're the hot topic in the chat right now, I think, is Bo Melton, man. So I mean, speaking of depth on defense, is Bo CB4?
He sure seems to be right now. I mean, when the starters came out, he was next guy up, and he wasn't out there that long, and then they took him out of the game, right? Like, and they didn't take him out of the game because he was getting beat. They took him out of the game because he was done, and I guess he didn't need to show anymore at that point. And he seems to be consistently on that second team defense throughout practice. So, yeah, I think right now he seems to be cornerback 4. Now, I don't know ultimately, like, if they had to play a real game right now and they had to go to their fourth cornerback, if it would really be him. I think he's more so a special teams guy who they like and see enough in that they feel like they can develop him at cornerback, but I think he's primarily a special teams guy. I don't think he's quite a roster lock, but it's getting pretty damn close for the amount of responsibility they give him and what they talk of him on special teams. And then just, this isn't some kind of like position conversion that they're still kind of figuring out, and he's getting third team reps and going back and forth between positions. Like, he's getting second team reps. So yeah, I think he's a pretty good bet to make the roster. Whether he ends up being the true cornerback 4, we'll see. But at this point, I mean, he's a good bet to make it. And it's who else behind him, like Kalen King, Mike Robinson. Can those guys do enough to make the team along with Melton?
Yeah, I think that's what becomes interesting. And again, we're going to get a lot of reps over the next 2 preseason games to see these things play out. You're not going to have to wait very long to see how this goes. And that's the beauty of the preseason. That's why people that say the preseason is pointless, I disagree wholeheartly. It may not be as entertaining because you're not watching starters as much, but man, I don't think they should go any further than 3 games. Like, if they get rid of another preseason game, you're going to really start making it hard for coaches and front offices to get good evaluation and getting these guys opportunities to compete. So yeah, I think that's definitely gonna be a big thing to watch, is that cornerback 4 competition, and maybe 4 through 6 to see who falls in there. Cause there's a couple of rookies here that are gonna have something to say with Kalen King and Kamal Hayden as well. There's a lot of competition going on back there. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting situation going on. There's some Bo hate, there's some Bo love. This is a very polarizing situation. I can't say that I'm really hard on one side or the other, you know.
I don't get the hate personally. Like, I don't see what there is to hate about the guy. I think it's a great story, and the fact that he's like, I'm not saying it's going to completely work out for him at cornerback, and he's going to be in the league another 10 years playing cornerback. But so far, it's far exceeded what I could expect, right? And I just,
yeah. I kind of thought maybe he'd be like, yeah, maybe he'll still get to play corner if somebody gets hurt.
Right,
and he's made the roster as a special teamer,
right? And he's a corner, and there's going to be ups and downs, but I mean, the guy just started playing the position. Like, what do you expect him to do? He's not going to be Sauce Gardner, right? And the way they talk about him and the responsibility they've given him on special teams speaks a lot too. Like, I think Goody's going to have a fight with Bisaccia if Goody says he's going to cut him. Like, Bisaccia wants him on the roster. And that's not going to, be the end all be all, but that's going to have a lot of sway. So, I don't get the Bo Melton hate. I'm not saying this guy's like Jair Alexander or Charles Woodson or anything like that, but he's a lot further along than I ever thought he would be.
Yeah, me too. And I think a lot of what they really like is his character, but his athleticism that goes with it. When you've got strong character and elite athleticism, there's, you got to believe you can turn that into a positive result. So I think that's what they're trying to do with him. And obviously he can contribute on special teams, but the reps that I've watched him play corner, he doesn't look uncomfortable. He doesn't look like he's trying to figure it out. He just looks like he needs to get more comfortable with it. He needs to get, he needs to see some of the moves and know what he's going to do when he sees that. But he looks like he's got the right instincts for the position. There was one rep that he didn't make the play, but it was one of those where the receiver came out to block him, and he could have easily just kind of, grabbed his shoulder pads and just sort of stood him up and just stopped there because he wasn't going to make the play. He took that receiver and he drove him straight into the pile onto the ground. And like, it's those types of things that aren't going to show up on the stat sheet. Not everybody saw it, but the film room saw that. I guarantee you the film room saw that. And that's the kind of thing the coaches love about that dude. And honestly, that will make a difference at some point if he's playing like that in a game. The one advantage he has as a cornerback is he's been a receiver. He knows how they think. He knows kind of, well, if a corner is going to do this to me, this is what I'm going to do to him. And he's been learning that with some of the best receivers around, right? So it's not like he's totally ill prepared here. It's just, you've got to match that understanding with the ability to physically do it. And I think he may be a rare case where he's got it because he is such an elite athlete. So it's a fun one to watch.
Yeah. And he just made the change a few months ago. And this is, other than a couple of mini camp practices, this is his first exposure really to cornerback. Like, it's going to take time. He needs that time. He needs the reps. Play him a ton in the preseason, give him that opportunity to get those reps. But there's something there that they can develop into at least a guy that's solid enough to be a depth cornerback and a contributor on special teams. Like, I don't think he looks completely lost out there at all. And for, you mentioned how he stuck his nose in there a little bit. Like, we've seen Packer cornerbacks that have been playing cornerback for a long time, probably all their life, that wouldn't stick their nose in there.
They're not doing that.
Right. And this is a receiver converting that's doing it. So, I think that speaks loudly, and that shows the coaches something as well.
We got our friend Al. Glad you're here with us, Al. Jersey Al says he is a development, quote unquote, cornerback. The Packers always have one or two of those. He just needs more reps. And that's where I agree. You get this guy more reps, maybe he is better than a Kalen King. And it's not all entirely because he's got the best ability as a corner, but it's because he's got the right things going on between the ears. And one of the things in LaFleur's press conference that he said, I think was yesterday, he was mad about the drops. He was mad about the, I think like the missed tackles. And then the third thing he said was the poor decision-making. So I think that speaks volumes. Like, these guys are looking for players who have good decision-making. As something that, that Goody had had alluded to as well earlier, not too long ago in one of his press conferences, is that one of the important things that they're evaluating in the preseason is what are these guys doing? What decisions are they making when they don't have the coach in their ear? And I think that's something that if you just had to drop everything and make a decision right now, rookies, the rookie cornerbacks, and even your Kalen King and Kamal Hayden, they may not have that decision-making trust that a Bo Melton has. And so that's something, again, it's not going to show up, but I guarantee there's a lot of that going on. And they're telling you that. LaFleur's telling you that. Goody's telling you that. So it's something to watch for. And again, it's not always the best ability. Sometimes it's the best decision making. I think that's something also that Isaiah McDuffie is valued for. I think that's, he's not a great athlete. He's not wowing you with big plays, but he probably makes the best decisions of all the linebackers, if I had to guess. Or maybe he's right up there with Quay Walker, because I think they feel the same way about him.
Trust goes a long way with coaches.
Yeah. And specifically decision-making trust, right? Like it's not always it's not always the ability to go out and make a freak play. Like when Odell makes that crazy one-handed catch while he's getting tackled by a Cowboys DB, it's not like the Giants coaches were like, I trust you to go do something freakish like that. They trusted him to run the right route, and work the DB the right way. The guy did a freak thing on his own. So those are two different things. And sometimes I think your coaches and front offices have to bet on the freakish abilities when they're not so sure if the guy can even get there. So yeah, that's how I kind of view the Bo Melton situation, but it is an interesting situation everybody's talking about. So, let's jump ahead then, because we got the Colts game, and that's really what we're looking at. We're not looking at starters, right? Did they officially announce that?
I mean, LaFleur came out and said his plan was to basically take the joint practice with the Colts as the starters time and then not play the starters against the Colts. So, and next week against the Seahawks, again, they're going to have joint practice, but that week their plan is to play the starters against the Seahawks. So unless he changes his mind, the starters aren't going to go in the game. They're just going to do the practice with the Colts.
Interesting. Okay. So I think this is I don't know. This is where everybody's feelings get mixed up. Do you need to get your starters prepared so that they're ready when the regular season starts, or do you need to avoid injuries and rest them and also make decisions on the other guys? And I don't want to lose track of the title of the episode. Is it time to admit the Packers are overrated? It's tough to do that from the first preseason game, right? And appreciate Al. Al's got the question here for us. Miles and Tim, are the Packers overrated? Now, Tim, I'll give you the first shot at this, but I have a very specific reason why I think we can answer this question right now. I'll just say that.
Okay. I'm not saying they're overrated after one preseason game. I think that's ridiculous. And I think that's jumping to way too many conclusions based on a preseason game, a family night scrimmage, and a couple weeks of training camp practices. Maybe they are overrated, but that won't be known for another couple of months when they're actually counting the games. And I don't want to say playing real football, because I guess we were waiting for real football, and then this is preseason football, whatever. It's real football, but it's not. So my answer would be no, they're not overrated. Maybe you ask me 2 months from now, I'd say, yeah, they're not as good as I thought they were. Maybe, they are, but no, I don't think they're overrated. I'm not jumping to conclusions based on the first preseason game. I think that's crazy. I think a lot is to be determined, but I still believe that they're a good team with pretty solid depth and the potential to be a team that goes on a deep playoff run this year. Nothing that happened against the Jets changes any of that. I do have concerns. I wish the receivers could catch a friggin' ball, but no, they're not overrated at this point. I still believe that they're a good team and that they're capable of going on a run this season and making us all forget that this game ever happened, right? And we can all look back at this and laugh in 3 or 4 months. So no, they're not overrated.
Well, the reason that I think that we can actually have this conversation right now is not because of the 2025 version of the Packers. And you also have to admit, I don't know what overrated means. Everybody's going to determine what overrated means to themselves.
Right.
So, if you thought that they were going to be a 15-win team and now you're like, dang, they might only win 10, I guess they were overrated. But, we'll let that be where it is. What I'm growing a little salty about is the coaching staff. I'm seeing patterns that are not changing. And they're leading to things that now are not changing. And we got David Lugo. Thanks for joining us, David. With an interesting comment here that I think I disagree with, but also want to draw attention to because this is what I'm talking about. He says you play the way you practice. So the Packers starters do need to play in the preseason. Got to see where they are to make adjustments for the regular season. Have an important division game week 1. Totally agree with everything after you play the way you practice. You should play the way you practice. I agree with the philosophy that you play the way you practice. But Romeo Doubs didn't do that. Romeo Doubs has been practicing like an all-pro. We got the videos, the sweet one-handed catches. We got some fun stuff coming out of training camp from Romeo Doubs. And the first opportunity he gets to go against somebody else who's a legitimate DB, he's a nobody. I mean, he did what receiver 4 on any team is going to do. That he was a nobody in those reps. And that may sound harsh, but he did not play the way that they practice. And that is a very big concern because I think that is part of the Packers' problem over the last few years in the LaFleur era. Is I think that a lot of things go well for them in practice. And then they get punched in the mouth on the field. And they don't know what the hell to do. And I think it almost feels like, because LaFleur was pretty spicy in yesterday's press conference. It almost feels like he's detecting that. He's finally picking up on that. Like, hey, this is ridiculous. What are we doing here? I thought we were good in practice and you guys show up on the field and look like that. What is this? I don't get it. And I think that's the LaFleur that needs to show up to get them out of this. You need a dude who's pissed off. He needs to stop being the leader that is everybody's best friend, because I think that he's been guilty of a little bit of that, which is fine. I think to some extent that works. But he's got to step out of that a little bit and have that like, hey guys, I'm pissed. Like we didn't take care of business. You made me think we were going to take care of business, and then we didn't take care of business. What is this? It's like, you look great in practice, Dobbs. You look like a beast. And then you get against a real man across from you and you got nothing? Like, come on, man. Like, what is that? I honestly, as a coach, I might have left him in the game. Like, go win a rep, dude. Go get a win. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little overreacting here, a little frustrated. We got our first Packers football of the year, of the season. I guess not technically the year. But yeah, that's what I'm a little bit worried about. So am I going to say here the Packers are overrated? Maybe not so definitively, but I'm worried. I see patterns and I don't like it. And I think it has to do with coaching. I think it has to do with accountability. So I think that some of that needs to change. Maybe not super drastically, but something's got to get adjusted in that. So I don't know. What do you think? Am I overreacting?
A little bit. I think if you continue to see patterns like what we saw against the Jets, continue against the Colts, continue against the Seahawks, and then it rolls into the regular season, then you get concerned. I don't think you get concerned yet with preseason. And I agree to a point, like you play how you practice. But that's a little bit different in the preseason when everybody knows these games aren't for real. The starters are playing a very limited amount of reps in the first game. It's just not the same thing. And I know that kind of sounds like a cop-out, but for the Jets, that was more of an important game because they're establishing their program. They're establishing.
Oh yeah, they definitely were more amped up for it.
Right, like the Packers, should they have matched the Jets level? Yeah, I guess they should have, but
I think in moments, I don't think you have to. I don't think the game has to match their game. I think that you want to see Romeo Doubs in that moment win or do better, right?
It's the little details in the execution. Right, Romeo Doubs, Malik Heath being absolutely wide open, dropping a pass that they could have pulled a kid out of the stands like they do on family night, and he could have caught the ball. Right, like there's no excuse for that. There's no coaching mistake for that. Catch the football.
Yeah,
the repeated penalties, some of the blown assignments, like all right, some of the blown assignments may happen. It's preseason, but you're also running a very basic and vanilla scheme on both sides of the ball. They interviewed Tucker. I think it was Tucker Kraft who said it during the game, and he said we were running day one install stuff.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be blowing that many assignments doing that kind of stuff. So it's the details that bother me more than like, hey, the Jets came in there with a lot more energy and more urgency to win that preseason game for Aaron Glenn. Like, good for the Jets. I think
Justin Fields wanted to win in Lambeau too. You know, he's still got a little chip on his shoulder.
I'm sure. He never won there with the Bears, so I guess he can win there now.
That meant something to him.
Well, he'll be on another team next year. Maybe that team will win in Green Bay. I don't like. Good for the Jets. For the Packers' perspective, it's just like the little sloppiness. You're going to get that with the preseason. You're going to get penalty flags. Like you can watch any preseason game. There's a million flags but like the details have to be better. Catching the ball, knowing when as a veteran to catch a punt or not catch a punt.
Yes.
Stuff like that. Like that to me is like, that shouldn't happen. If that continues to happen, then I'm going to say maybe this, I don't, going into the season, I'm going to have my concerns. Like maybe this team isn't as good as I thought. Maybe they're not as prepared. Maybe it's setting up for some ugliness. But for me, it's more like it's one preseason game. Let's see how they look these next few weeks. And then what shows up week one against the Lions will tell us like, all right, you can ignore that Jets game. It didn't mean anything. Or, wow, we saw some things in that Jets game and they're now bleeding over into the regular season. So, the red flag should be going up.
Well, we're going to learn a lot over the next couple of weeks. I know that there's a lot of reps to go around for these guys that have some competing to do for a job. So that starts with joint practices against the Colts this week, right?
Yep.
And then the game on Sunday.
Saturday.
Is it on Saturday?
Yeah. One practice on Thursday, game on Saturday. We won't see the starters on Saturday. They're just going to go practice with them. So
excellent.
It'll be a lot of the depth guys, which is important to watch.
Honestly, and I know a lot of people that aren't football nerds, you're not like, I just want to see Jordan Love. I get it. But there is like, if you like football, there's good football to watch here. Like watching guys compete for a job is fun, right? And in that, guys get better, become stars for your team potentially. So there are things to watch here. It's not just, boring football that begins and ends and it's not exciting. You just, you got to know what to watch a little bit. So we're watching the DBs. We're watching to see how they do. We're watching the receivers. We're watching the O-line. Would love to see the D-line continue to mature. You've got some injuries in the secondary, some injuries with Jaden Reed. So temper your expectations for overall team performance, but you want to see certain guys win certain battles. I think that's what you're looking for. You're looking for, Nazir Stackhouse get a couple stuffs. We want to see some of that. We want to see guys win one-on-one reps when it's a receiver against a DB. Those are the things we're watching for. And certainly, if y'all love this podcast, please tell a friend about it, and spike that like button while you're at it. And we appreciate you guys for hanging out with us every Monday night, 9:30 here on the Pack Weekly Pod at the Packers Talk Network YouTube channel. Get over there, subscribe. And, of course, come and hang out with us again next week as we'll break down this Colts game that's about to happen. And then we will look forward to see that final preseason game. Who's gonna duke it out? Who maybe seems to solidify a seat this week against the Colts? We don't know. Something's going to happen. We got to see what's going to happen. But we're here to talk about it next Monday night, 9:30 p.m. Central, streaming live on we're on Twitter and on YouTube. But definitely come hang out with us. We love it when you guys do. Talking Pack, and of course, as always, go Pack, go.